Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and to just, wow, to join a really great group of speakers. So I want to talk a little bit about open policy in Washington State, and then we're going to talk. Then we'll go into the open course library and connect those two. I think that Washington State has started to get a little reputation for doing open policy, and there's actually some. Well, I'll talk a little bit about some legislation that's moving through right now that looks like some of it's going to go. So I'll make sure to leave some time for that. So I want to start out by talking about this thing called the iron triangle. It's this idea that there's essentially, there are three factors: cost, quality, and access, and they're in this relationship where if for example, if cost goes down, then quality goes down. There's this iron triangle, this relationship that can't be broken, and it's this concept that we have these constraints between cost, quality, and access that I think for a long time has really been the case, and then with the advent of digital content, and Brad and others talked about some of the great initiatives that are happening right now using the affordances of digital content. It really does change the game, and in some pretty significant ways, just in terms of what you're able to do. So I'll just throw out the idea of rivalrous versus non-rivalrous. And so the idea there is, if I've got a newspaper and I'm reading it, then no one else can read it. I mean, someone who goes to CNN.com, I mean, imagine if they were the only person that could go and we were all waiting in line for our turn to read CNN.com. It doesn't work that way anymore. And that's because it's a non-rivalrous situation. So the question is, how do we currently attempt to harness digital network technologies? Well, we've got the internet, which is one of the greatest distribution channels ever. Well, the greatest distribution channel that exists. Then you have digital content, which we know allows for fantastically new and easy ways to share. So if we've got those two together, you would think, okay, we've got lower cost, and we've got greater access, and we've got greater quality, potentially, if lots of people can be working on the same content. And all of that should happen, right? But actually, no. We're not seeing that right now. And part of the problem, and this is not a blaming copyright thing, but part of the problem is just the way that copyright is structured. It requires permission to be granted from the copyright holder in such a way that it really negates the opportunity of the internet, the opportunity of this mass digital sharing that could be, simply because to be able to have the permission to do new and different things with my content, my digital content, I have to give you permission. And that's the default setting for copyright right now. Anything I write on the back of a napkin is all rights reserved, Tom Caswell, until I give you permission to be able to use it and change it or do other things with it. So I think this is where the idea of open access comes into play. And so now if you put the three together, the internet as your distribution channel, digital content, and the affordances that come with it, and an open license, now you really can start to look at some of the opportunities that come with those three combined. And when I say open license, I'm talking about using copyright, using the existing copyright structures that we have, but simply adding a license within that structure that explicitly gives permission for people to do certain things with my content. So let's just talk about OER, Open Educational Resources. And the basic definition is teaching, learning, and research resources that reside in the public domain or have been released under an IP license that permits their free use, repurposing by others. So why is open important? And why is it important particularly in education? Well, first of all, I would just say, before anything else, education is sharing. I mean, the fundamental idea of education is that I am sharing knowledge with you. You are sharing knowledge with other people. So doing that more efficiently makes all kinds of sense. So there are efficiency arguments with open. There can be affordability arguments, certainly, and I think part of this comes back to this idea that right now there's you know, this somewhat dysfunctional cycle of students choosing not to buy textbooks getting more expensive, and I think Brad covered it well. So really, there's an affordability there's an affordability angle here as well. Quality, I think that, and this is just one way to look at it, but I think that generally speaking, we do our best work when other people are able to see it, when we know that it's going to be viewed by a lot of people. And I know that one of my early jobs with the Center for Open and Sustainable Learning was working with faculty and helping them polish their materials because it was going on our OpenCourseWare website, and that was a big deal. And it's one thing to show it to, you know, 30 students or 100 students, but if it's going online, I'm going to make sure that I double check everything. So there's an argument there for quality. Self-interest, and that, I think, self-interest is one way to say there are a lot of opportunities that come to faculty and those who participate with open resources. There's really a lot of opportunity around sharing, and I don't think you have to look very far. An example that comes to mind is there's a great new band, well, not new, but there's a great band that's called Walk Off the Earth that just put a YouTube video up. I think it was the 5th of January this year. Okay, so at last check, they are just under 50 million views on that video. And I don't know if probably a lot of you have seen it. It's where there's actually 5 band members. They're all huddled around one guitar, and someone's tapping on the guitar, doing percussion. And 3 people are playing the guitar, and then and they're all singing at different times. So just the incredible power of sharing is what really struck me when I saw that. Wow, in 1 month, these folks have, you know, record labels swarming. They've, you know, 50 million views. If they sold to 1%, you know, for $1, they're doing fine. So back to the idea of how do we enable this open licensing, this open sharing, and Creative Commons has a great solution, which really Creative Commons can be seen as a simple, standardized way to grant copyright permissions to your creative work, and all within the normal bounds of our copyright system, not trying to change anything, but just work within that paradigm. MIT OpenCourseWare, great example, 2,000 plus courses using their version of a Creative Commons license, and all very high quality materials. So come back to the problems that we come face to face with the affordability of textbooks, and this is something that really has hit hard in Washington in particular. We had this textbook rebellion come through Washington State, and really a grassroots effort, students rallying around this idea that, gosh, you know, textbooks just are too expensive. This is not working for us. And really interesting to see that, and just to see, I guess, the groundswell of emotion around that problem. So for Washington, I think it's safe to say that the rising cost of textbooks is reducing access to higher education, and especially, I come from the community college perspective. So working for the state board, the community college tuition right now averages right around $3,600 in the state of Washington, $3,600 per year. And if you're spending $500, $600, $700 or more on textbooks, I mean, that's a significant percentage, and probably that's why community colleges feel the hurt more so than university students. And I think as a relative cost, as compared to the total outlay for an education, it really is significant when you're adding 20+% to the cost of your education. And frankly, some students, it affects their completion as well, because then they end up just trying not to, they go and they pay tuition. That's not optional, but then they don't buy the textbook, and that's just as big a problem, because obviously without the proper materials, you do not have a great shot at completing those courses that you've enrolled in. So just an example, in our system, English Composition 1, we had about 50,000 enrollments per year, and if a textbook costs $100, and they're all different, but let's say that the textbooks are right around $100, that's $5 million just for English Composition 1 in 1 year. And it really it made us start thinking about how can we work with this? How do we make this something? What can we do to get around this idea, the old economics of the rivalrous physical textbook and the cost associated with creating and printing, shipping, and distributing books for every student. So the new economics then are that it doesn't have to be rivalrous, and leveraging the affordances of digital means that really we're able to, obviously there are significant expenses with creating that first copy, but then beyond that, the distribution really goes close to zero. David Wiley ran some numbers. Let's see if I've got them here. Okay, the cost of making a copy for one 250-page book, copying it by hand, that was the old, pre-photocopier, you had monks, scribes, writing things out. Well, we're higher ed, so we have to go a little ways back, but it wasn't too long ago. Copying by hand is about $1,000. So we graduated to print on demand recently, and that's great. That's about just under $5 for a copy, a 250-page copy, and these are these are Lulu prices, Amazon prices, and then if you actually calculate it out, the cost to make a copy and distribute using Amazon services to just do a digital copy of a 250-page textbook ends up being about 1/1000th of a cent, and excuse me, okay, yeah, so about an 8/100th of a penny is what it ends up being. So this is where we're just talking about distribution here. Clearly, there's real costs with creating the materials, but I think that we can see where things are going in terms of leveraging these digital resources and how we can realize some of those efficiencies. So where do we begin from a policy perspective? And I think really the answer, and for all of you, as you think about policy, you begin by building on your existing goals. So we in Washington had a goal of increasing access and completion. That was already on the books. So we added to that by providing high-quality, affordable, openly licensed educational resources. And we also, I think, need to build on existing successes. And so, again, as you think about ways to move forward with your, with similar policies, you should think about where have you been successful? What can you build on? In the community system, in the community college system in Washington, we have a great history of sharing resources through a pooled enrollment system, and it's called Washington Online. And Washington Online has existed for well over a decade, and it's been very successful in being able to bring colleges together, allowing them to pool enrollments so that they can carry courses that otherwise wouldn't carry. So it really very, very beneficial to students to be able to have those additional course options. So we started there, and we thought, well, what if we could get together as a system and pool our talents to be able to move forward with some of these needs that we have for high quality content. So this brings me to some of the other opportunities that existed in Washington at the time, and this was right around 2009. We were creating a strategic technology plan, and so at that time we baked it right into the strategic technology plan, this idea of using open educational resources, contributing to them, and the idea that if we work together as a large system, that we, common resources raise all boats when shared. So the strategic technology plan was one piece. Then we got into some legislation with a House Bill 1025. We added the piece. Basically, this bill talks about considering the least costly practices. It encourages faculty to consider the least costly practices when considering their various textbook options. And we inserted open textbooks in the language. Just a minor tweak, but again, just kind of moving forward with the policy. And then with Second Substitute House Bill 1946, a couple big ideas. The idea of open licensing and using open textbooks, open journals, and open learning objects. Again, this is simply laying the groundwork, being able to move the policies towards this idea of open sharing, so that it doesn't come in as a big surprise or a foreign idea. Finally, in 2010, the State Board for Community and Technical Colleges adopted an open policy which states that all digital software, educational resources, and knowledge produced through competitive grants, and this is, these are optional competitive grants, offered through and or managed by the State Board, will carry a Creative Commons attribution license. So if you want the money, you produce the resources and you share the resources with everyone. And this was a big deal, and I think really the first open policy that I'm aware of. And that leads us to the open course library. And so building again on the policy moves that we had made, we were approached by the Gates Foundation and working with student completion issues. One of the things that we came up with was, let's not tinker around the edges. Let's go big. Let's take the highest enrolling courses, and let's hire our own faculty to create and curate high quality resources around these and we went with the 81 of our very highest enrolling courses. So really, which represents a very large percentage of all our enrollments, so well over 400,000 annual enrollments. So the idea here is that we would design and share these this high quality content. And I say design because really we didn't want to reinvent the wheel any more than we wanted to. You know, there was no need to reinvent the wheel. There was already great. In a lot of these courses, there was already some good openly available content. The problem was that it wasn't available for all courses. So what we did was we set a cap of $30 on each of these for course materials. I mean, there was a $30 cap on each of these open course library courses, and that was really a hard goal, because what we were saying is you can use anything you want, faculty. We encourage you to use open resources. We understand that they're not available for every single course. We had a human anatomy and physiology. That was extremely tough. But we also wanted, you know, the overall goal, one of them was to push down the costs of these materials to students. And so the $30 limit was a way to keep the door open, and really we were able to develop some great relationships with publishers, Cengage especially, Flat World Knowledge, and other publishers who really came to the table and said, okay, well, you know, this is low. That's not a lot of money, but we want to be part of this conversation. So so that's what we did. And then other goals of this project were improving completion rates, and really engaging our faculty in the OER discussion, really getting them to get involved. And because we have so many adjunct faculty, the idea is that we really needed to, you know, we were initially, this was seen as, wow, State Board is prescribing, you know, this material, and oh my gosh, and there was pushback, and it was kind of crazy, and we had to work on messaging to make sure that people understood, look, what we're doing is we are giving faculty an incentive, giving them time. You know, this was a year-long process for each of these courses. We took 4 quarters, and we basically bought out a third of the faculty's time, or they could take it as a stipend. But basically, this was so that the faculty could actually clear out some of their schedule to really be able to look at what was out there, make some decisions about where the quality was, and they worked with instructional designers, they worked with librarians, they had experts supporting them, and there were lots of mechanisms to make sure that it wasn't just kind of a lone gun, just trying to grab something off the internet and call it good. At the same time, we were designing, we told the faculty, build the course that you will use. So really getting away from the idea that this wasn't supposed to be like the one true course that everyone was supposed to use. This was one instance of a high quality course with all the materials needed, and other faculty from that point, we would invite them to look at it and to use it if it's useful, take pieces of it, leave other pieces. But then the idea wasn't to just wholesale, push adoption down anyone's throats. Really, this was a proof of concept that this can be done, and we'll put out into our system these 81 high quality courses, and then from there, the heavy lifting has been done, and then the adaptations and the modifications can happen with smaller incentives, but not. This big push was really just to show that that it can be done. So that's how we broke it out. And in our first phase, we did 42 courses. Those just launched at the end of October. So it's still pretty early to say, how did we do? Well, we have faculty adoptions that are happening. I would say that these first 42 courses were very much an exploratory phase. We let faculty try just about anything, which they did actually try just about anything. It was, it was interesting. And we actually, though, I mean, to be fair, they came up with some fantastic, really great courses. And we built those first 42 courses using our existing learning management system, Angel. And we learned something there, too. We learned that that probably wasn't a great idea. So anyway, because if you have a learning management system and you can copy it in, great. You know, you're golden. If you don't, if you're teaching face-to-face, well, you know, here's a guest login and you can copy-paste. And you know, this is part of this is me admitting that we definitely learned things along the way. And very grateful to the Gates Foundation and the state legislature for allowing us that learning curve. You know, we didn't come in saying we've got it. We've figured everything out. You know, we've got like 100% for sure win here. We actually, so we've modified and we're moving those courses plus the new courses that we're developing now. We're moving them into a shared Google Docs and Google Sites, and you'll be able to just download all the resources and modify and change them. One thing that we learned more than anything else was when you have 10,000 faculty, don't do anything complicated. Just don't. I mean, like, no. Learning management system. Most of them really, even the learning management system was just too much. And we, so we brought it back and we said, okay, what are they doing? Well, you know, the vast majority of them, they were going out, they were finding great resources, and they were putting it in a Word document. Okay. And then they were copying it into Angel or the learning management system. And we looked at this behavior and we said, okay, we need something that's easy to share. We can assume basic word processor skills across all of our faculty. I wouldn't go any further than that. So with Google Docs, you've got this basic word processor, right? And then there's this one extra blue button up in the top right corner, and it says share. That was complicated. But we got there. We figured it out. So anyway, the point is we learned a lot in the process, but really what we found was this is something that if we want it to scale up across a large system like the 34 colleges in Washington State, we need to make this as simple as possible, and we need to give faculty what they want. And really what they were looking for is very, you know, basic tools, very simple, and also they wanted their own copy. You know, they didn't want to just go to the web and just see the online version. They wanted to download it and to get the whole thing. And so now that's what you do. You go and you download it. You get the zip file full of all the activities and assessments, and they're all Word documents, and you can change them. So anyway, I just share that because we've definitely learned a lot in this process. And let's see how much. Okay, all right. So we're gonna really fast forward here, but I had fun. You know, this was good. Got almost halfway through. So these 81 courses, they're built by our own faculty. We started with learning objectives. This uses high-quality OER, and really, then we fill in the gaps. So don't create anything that's already been created. We get the question, inevitably, we get this question about, well, okay, but, I mean, come on. You know that it's not really good quality, right? I mean, it's free. So, okay, I'm just going to make this one statement. I think we should not use price as a proxy for quality any longer. I think that's a mistake. Quality does cost money. High-quality materials don't just magically appear, but do not use price as a proxy for quality. Judge the content for what it is. And if it's good quality, it will not necessarily come with a big price tag. So what do we do about quality? We have instructional designers who do reviews based on Quality Matters, which is a national standard. We have double peer reviews. We have accessibility experts looking through every single course, global education reviews as well. we are addressing quality, and we have some great quality in these resources. Are they for everyone? No. The open course library is just like, just like any materials that you would evaluate. Someone's going to look at it and say, this is fantastic, and someone else is going to say, not for me. But the biggest success I would point to, as it's still early, but as faculty are looking through this, Green River Community College actually had an adoption cycle that came up for their pre-calculus materials, and the open course library materials went head-to-head with publisher materials and with all of the other materials that were being looked at during that adoption cycle, and David Lippman's open course library textbook won. And it's $15 to get a paper copy. It's 400 pages, 500 I think. You can get a $15 copy on Lulu. Is that common? No, that's not common. But are we moving to some new and interesting ways to distribute and share resources? Absolutely. And I think that's what we need to keep in mind. It still costs money. We still need to think about incentives for faculty. We still need to keep the publishers involved. But after all of that said and done, we have to know that, we're past the point of the old cube of ice keeping the food cold. Refrigeration has been invented, and we need to move to that next model. And I use that analogy just because we've experienced a major shift here, and some people are still going to try and sell you ice cubes to go in your old ice box, and those people will eventually have to find other things to do. And people that are in the business of delivering those ice cubes will probably also have to find something else to do. But metaphorically, we are in a new phase, and there's new opportunities both for publishers and for faculty to create some exciting content and to share it. So I'm just going to leave it right there, and I do have my slides up on SlideShare. Now you'll see I just had a couple more, so but my slides are up on SlideShare, and I'll take, well, at some point I think there will be time for questions, but thank you for your time.